How are you today? I'm so excited you're here because I'm Beth English and I'm here with Sergio Gomez, and we're going to talk about what we've learned from our biggest mistakes. I know this is a really exciting episode because it's important when you start to share the things that you've learned through the mistakes that you've experienced. What do you think about that, Sergio?
I love that. I love that anytime that we can look back and learn from what we have done in the past to make a better future, I'm all for it. So let's go. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, when we were on our clubhouse call, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I came up with this idea to kind of talk about what we have learned because so many artists are starting in different places. Some are in the beginning, some are mid-level career, and some have been making art for 30 years. And so I think it's important that we realize no matter where we are on this journey of being an artist, that we are not alone, especially when it comes to the mistakes that we make. If we've done it, you've probably done it. And if you're learning from mistakes right now, just know that you are not alone in this process. And we're here to support you, let you know that we're here to help. So I wanted to share a few of my biggest mistakes today. And I know, Sergio, I'm going to get some stories out of you too.
All right, let's do it. Let's see what we can find. Let's do some digging.
Dig deep, my friends, because this is where the learning happens. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I did in the very beginning was just doing what everybody else was doing, looking around me and just copying what I saw, not necessarily in the work that I was making, but in the process that I was following. Because I didn't go to art school. And so I didn't understand a lot about what was going on in the art scene. But what I knew is that people were having shows, they were having art fairs, they were doing all types of things. And so I threw myself in, I did it all. And I really should have asked myself, how do I want to show up? How do I see myself communicating with my art? What is it that feels good to me? And so I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I mean, I definitely learned from them, but I probably focused too much on what other people were doing in the very beginning.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's really interesting, Abed, and definitely kind of recognizing, those things is important. Should I share one of mine?
Yeah, sure. From
All right.
the something maybe that you learned in the beginning.
Okay, so you want something like it's all from the at the very beginning, something that I regret that I should have done from the way in the beginning, because I've always had like entrepreneurial kind of things inside that I wanted to do, so it was always in my mind, but I never took a business class, or a marketing class. Everything I learned in marketing and business, I learned it by working, by doing, which
Mm.
is great. It's a great school to do that. But I wish, that I had started much earlier, that when I started my career, I started looking into that, right? Because I ended up opening a gallery and opening all the businesses. And, when I started my gallery, I didn't even know how to run the books or how to do anything, right? I just knew that's something I wanted to do. And so I made a lot of mistakes along the way because I didn't take the time at the beginning to get the training and get some of the advice that I really needed to get it off and running without making some of those big mistakes that I made along the way. So yeah, going back, that's one of the biggest ones for me. And whenever I talk to an emerging artist, like, hey, you got to start right now learning the business aspects of your art career because they're gonna be so much needed in the future.
Mm.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that a lot of artists start making art and then they start thinking about, well, how do I sell my art? And so they kind of are in that same position that you were in way back when.
Right.
And so I think that brings me to my next point is that I didn't ask for help soon enough.
Mm, okay.
I
Yeah.
spent many, many years figuring things out on my own when really I should have been asking for help, maybe from other artists, maybe from professionals in the industry. I, I read a lot of the freebies and watched a lot of the videos, but getting that one-on-one attention, I could have really benefited from and definitely seen my career take off much faster if I would have asked for help earlier on.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's like probably maybe most of us we go through the kind of like the same thing, right? And as you were describing, you're like, yep, I should have done it a lot earlier. It took me some time for me to understand this is much bigger than what I anticipated, much bigger than what I had imagined. And yeah, what I had to do is like sit down and say, okay, I need to find some mentors. And I look, for example, I found a gallery owner who became kind of a mentor for me and kind of helped me out in figuring out, this is how it works in the gallery business, right? These are the things that you need to know. And but for the time in which I was trying to figure it out all by myself, it was very difficult. And I
Mm.
should have done that a lot earlier. Just as you said, I think at the beginning, we have all these dreams, we have all this energy, we have all this, I can do it myself. I'm going to prove it to myself and to others that I can do it. And certainly we can do it ourselves. But up to a point, there's things that when we bring others into the table, into the conversation, then we accelerate the progress. It's not that we're not going to get there. We have the drive and determination, we'll get there, but we can get there faster and smarter without making the biggest mistakes when we bring others into our table.
Yes, I remember when I submitted some work for a group show, I didn't hang it right. I didn't put the hanging hardware on the back of it correctly. And
Uh-huh.
they didn't hang my work for the show because I had submitted it wrong, but I didn't know any better, right? So that was a mistake I learned really quick. And so I started volunteering to hang shows so that I could learn more about curating and hanging art and the hardware and using a drill. Like I didn't know how to use a drill. And so I learned a lot just through asking questions and volunteering and helping people out. And that's how I kind of got more connected to people in the gallery scene. And then I learned more about that. And so I definitely put myself out there. And that was my version of asking for help, right? Just kind of like standing around waiting to learn something. And I think that has its place, but definitely asking a mentor or getting some type of mentor. It doesn't have to be like a formal mentorship program, but I think when you start to build relationships with people who are doing the things you want to do, you're always going to learn something really valuable.
Yeah, totally right. Yeah, I totally agree. One of the other kind of like big mistakes that I learned along the way is that there's certain things you cannot have shortcuts on. There's certain things that you can find a shortcut, that or the things that there's no shortcut to it. One of them, for example, when you're working in your art and there's certain processes that need to be done a certain way. It happened to me. I had like this big painting that got into a show that I was really wanted to get in, and I was so excited. And when it came the time for mounting the piece, for framing it and shipping it, I took a shortcut, and I applied the glue, and we were all gonna go for dinner, and I just said, I think I had time to do it right before we go for dinner. So I did it really quickly. It looked good. We left. We came back from that, and the piece was almost ruined. It had all wrinkled up. It took me like, a whole day and a lot of sweating to save that painting. Fortunately, I was able to save it, but if it had been just a little longer that we were out, I would totally ruin it. Just because I wanted to, take a shortcut on the process, and that was a big mistake for me. Since then, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna book specific time when I'm gonna do my mounting, and I don't put anything after there for a few hours until I'm 100% sure that piece is perfect. Because
Mm.
sometimes those quick shortcuts that we want to take, maybe for a good reason, but can cause one of the biggest mistakes, in your career.
I totally get that. It just brings back memories. I used to go to every single art show that I could, and I would study the way that the art was hung, the way that it was prepared, the sides, this everything that I could notice about it, because I realized that the materials that you use and the process that you follow is so important to the outcome of the piece, and then ultimately the value that that piece brings in. And so I knew that was a really important part of the art making process. And so when you tell me that story, I'm just like, yep, I've been there too. No
Right.
more shortcuts,
No,
definitely.
absolutely.
Well, now that we've shared some of our biggest mistakes, what has been maybe one of the best things that you have done?
I think for me, when you're working and you're building a body of work for so long, for me, I've been working on the Cycles of Life series, for the last 20 years. So in 2018, I had a chance to take that whole series and make it into a traveling show, and have parts of that series being at 4 museums in 3 different countries in the same year. And so that was for me like one of the biggest highlights up to now, being able to see the work of so many years, finally being presented in a museum setting, and outside of your country. And for me, like the two shows that I had in two Mexican museums was also very special because I grew up in Mexico. And
Mm-hmm.
although I built my art career on this side of the border, going back to, the motherland in a way, was so special to connect with my people there. So I think that's been one of my highest and proudest moments that I was really happy that it happened.
I remember that too. I was just in awe seeing all of your photographs of your work around the world. And I thought, how amazing is this? I was so happy for you. I was like every picture that you shared. I know for me, when I finally asked myself, how do I want to show up with my work? Who do I want to work with? How do I see myself moving forward? That was the biggest turning point for me. Instead of just sort of like doing things the way that I had always done them, I sort of thought, how do I approach this in a new way that feels more in alignment with where I am right now? Because after 10 years, I changed the way that I wanted to show my art. And I started making more money and I was getting the jobs of my like dream jobs of the work that I wanted to do. And so I think when you're intentional like that, just like you were, I think when you're intentional, that's when you start to see some of the biggest payoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Intention, I think, is something amazing. And looking at what you have built over the years, and we've been friends for a long time, and the amazing communities that you have built are always so inspiring. You're always kind of looking for what makes sense for you at the moment and how to kind of reinvent it, in a new and fresh way. It's that's something I admire about you, and I think that yeah, that's a perfect highlight.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I'm so glad we were able to share some of our biggest mistakes and our biggest wins today because I believe that when we start to open up and share these things, it can truly have an impact on the people watching. And if you're watching today and we've talked about something that you're maybe feeling right now, leave a comment. Send us a message. Let us know, hey, that's me too. What did you do? Or if you have a question about something you're going through right now, definitely send it our way because we're here to help. And we've learned a lot along the way, as you can tell through this video. And we just want to help you be in the best position that you can be with your work. So thank you
Absolutely.
for watching. And thank you, Sergio, for sharing your stories with us today. I loved hearing them. Can you tell our friends where they can find you online?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Beth, for that. I think that was really awesome. So you can find me everywhere at Sergio Gomez Art and on my website at sergiogomezonline.com.
Awesome. And you guys can find me at Beth English on Instagram and Facebook. And my website is bethenglish.com. And I can't wait to see you again next week for another video. If you have a video idea or a topic you want us to discuss, make sure you send us a DM or leave a comment. Always share our videos so we can reach more artists around the world and inspire them through our stories and expertise. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye, Beth.
Bye.